he ran away from God. We all know that. But the second part of this is that he repented, he gave God's message, and then he went outside the city to wait and see what would happen. He was hoping that the people of Nineveh would get destroyed, would get God's wrath. So he set up a booth to watch. And what happened? God had mercy. The king of Nineveh repented. He told everyone to put on sackcloth, let no one eat anything. They repented, they fasted. And then Jonah said, God gets angry. He gets angry because they didn't get what they had coming to them. He said, God, I know you're merciful. I know that you're just, and that if I preached that you would have mercy on them if they repented. So he gets mad. He regrets doing what God asked him to do. And how true this is in our own life. You see, in baptism, you are anointed priest, prophet, and king. And that includes that office of prophet, which is to speak the truth to people. Often that means an encouraging word. But sometimes that means telling a friend that they shouldn't do something. It means challenging or exhorting the sinner. Sometimes, though, we are called by God to do something. We're even called to a particular job, maybe to do something nice for somebody. Or in a wider scale, he might call us to a vocation, to be a priest or religious, or to start an apostolate, or to be a part of a ministry. And sometimes we respond to that, maybe even to marry a particular person. And we respond to that, and then after we're following God, we're doing what he wants us to do, we kind of regret it. We have these feelings of regret. And we kind of can get bitter, like Jonah did. He was sorry that he had listened to the Lord. And why was this? It was because there was bitterness in his heart. That's what caused his regret. Now, we all will have temptations. When we're doing the Lord's work, oh gosh, this is a lot harder than I thought. Man, if I would have known what I was signing up for, I would have said yes to this. We can often get past that with the grace of God. But if we hold bitterness in our heart, that is something that could completely derail our vocation. And this is what happened to Jonah. Jonah, we don't know what happened to him after this episode. We know from the scriptures that God gave him a little bit of what we call consolation. He sent a tree, like a plant, to grow over him and to give him shade. Because he was sitting in the sun, just waiting for these people to get what they had coming to them. And so God sends this shade, so at least he's protected by the sun. He gives him a blessing. And then Jonah is happy. He delighted greatly in this plant. And then at night, God sends a worm to eat it. And then he asks Jonah, "Are you angry?" And Jonah says, "Yes, I'm angry, and it would be better if I died." Which is what he said when he found out God was going to have mercy on these people. It would be better if I died. What a serious thing to say. And God, in reply, tells Jonah, "Do you well to be angry for the plant?" And he said, "I do well to be angry, angry enough to die." And the Lord said, "You pity the plant for which you did not labor, nor did you make it grow, which came into being in a night and perished in a night. Should I not pity Nineveh, that great city in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from their left, and also much cattle?" That's saying you care more about this plant than 120,000 people. And Jonah had good reason to be bitter against these people. These were the Assyrians. These were the oppressors. They had made life miserable for Jonah and his people. So he had good reason. But this bitterness in his heart derails his vocation. We don't know what happens to Jonah after this. We do know from some of the other prophets what happened in Nineveh. They went back to their old ways after they repented. They maybe had some regrets, like, well, maybe I wish we wouldn't have repented. This is kind of hard, living this holy life and following the true God. They went back and they eventually were destroyed. So I guess maybe Jonah, if he was around to see that, was happy about that. But we have two instances of failures. People of Nineveh went back to their old ways, and Jonah repented of the work that he had done for God. He got bitter. And that bitterness in his heart, that's something that all of us, both young and old alike, can take in this penitential season that we are about to enter into. We often fast in these penitential seasons. If you're old enough, you are required to fast, even on certain days. But sometimes this fasting kind of isn't aimed anywhere. It's just, I'm going to fast because that's what I've always done. I believe that fasting is much more profitable when it's aimed at something. It's aimed at something in particular, an intention. And as we approach this penitential season, I want to make two suggestions on how we might aim our fasting. We all have bitterness somewhere in our heart. If we're breathing, we have some bitterness. Somewhere along the way, somebody has done something mean to us. If we're older, they might have even done something despicable to us. Something that we really resent. And it may not be on our mind all the time, every day, but once in a while it comes up. And it makes us bitter. And that bitterness, we see what it can do to what God's called us to do. So we have to seek over our entire lives to invite God into that bitterness so that we can be at peace with whoever it is that's wronged us. So this is my suggestion. For the two things, when you fast, first offer your fast, asking God to show you where there's bitterness in your heart. Ask him, say, who has wronged me? Who am I bitter against? Secondly, when he shows that to you, then offer that next part of your fast for that person, or offer a sacrifice for them. And ask God what he wants you to do. Maybe he wants you to go and do something really nice to them, really kind to them. But perhaps not. Maybe he just wants you to pray for them or offer that fast for him. But in that second part of the fast, once God has laid on your heart that you are still carrying some bitterness in your heart towards a person, offer that next part of the fast and the rest of your Lenten sacrifices for them. And in doing so, you will be at peace with that person and at peace with God. Please stand. We're going to now sing the hymn, Let All Mortal Flesh Be Silent.